The headlines for this hour, VTV News. The National Assembly set target of 6.5% GDP growth in 2024. Electricity Vietnam raises price by 4.5% to offset costs. In our war news, bilateral ties tighten ahead of U.S.-China summit.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. The National Assembly held a plenary session on Thursday morning to discuss adjustment to certain aspects of the resolutions on the feasibility study report of the land acquisition project, compensation, support, and resettlements of Long Thanh International Airport. The majority of deputies in attendance agreed to extend the land recovery period by 3 years, citing difficulties in the recovery process. Additionally, some deputies suggested expediting the constructions of component projects to ensure the well-being of individuals whose land has been used for the airport development. Specifically, Component 2 consists of 11 sub-projects, including schools, markets, and a culture center. During the session, deputies also provided feedback on the draft resolutions for piloting specific mechanisms and policy related to investment in traffic infrastructure construction. With a majority of votes in favor, on Thursday, the National Assembly passed the resolution on the Socioeconomic Development Plan for 2024, which set a target of 6 to 6.5% growth in gross domestic product (GDP) for the year.
According to the resolution, the main targets for next year include gross domestic product, or GDP growth rate is from 6 to 6.5%, GDP per capita is about $4,700 to $4,730. The proportion of processing and manufacturing industry in GDP is about 24.1% to 24.2%. The average growth rate of the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is 4 to 4.5%. Regarding the GDP target from 6 to 6.5%, the National Assembly Standing Committee stated clearly that this target is built on the basis of analysis and forecast of the domestic and international situation, closely following the 5-year plan of socioeconomic development. Setting high targets demonstrates the government's determination, while ensuring harmony and flexibility in implementing goals. The resolution also sets the goal of continuing to prioritize growth associated with maintaining macroeconomic stability, controlling inflation, and ensuring major balances of the economy. It also aims to restructure the economy and will help to remove institutional and policy bottlenecks, and accelerate the progress of key strategic and important national infrastructure projects. Also on Thursday afternoon, the National Assembly listened to submissions, inspection reports, and discussions in groups of the draft law on organization of people's courts.
After 2.5 days of focused work with a constructive spirit and enthusiasm, the question and answer session at the 6th session of the 15th National Assembly was a great success. This is a working session with a number of innovations in both organization and content, affirming the supreme supervisory role of the National Assembly on national and people's livelihood issues.
Some 457 National Assembly deputies signed up to participate in the questioning. 152 National Assembly deputies exercised the right to question. For the first time, the National Assembly did not question groups of issues but questioned the implementation of the National Assembly's resolutions. The implementation of promises and commitments of ministers and sector leaders in 4 areas: general macroeconomics, economics, culture, society, jurisprudence, internal affairs, and state audit.
One of the requirements of the resolutions, especially the resolution of the 15th National Assembly, is a specific requirement that what needs to be done, who must do it, which industry must do it. The National Assembly will then question and remonitor to see if it can be implemented. Of course, the opening speech of the National Assembly chairman also clearly stated that not everything can be done, but through questioning there are solutions to implement the resolutions of the National Assembly.
Also, for the first time, the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, and 21 ministers and sector heads directly answered questions. They clearly understand the field they are in charge of and their answers are helpful.
Many ministers participating in answering will reduce the pressure on one minister continuously answering numerous questions, which may decrease the quality of answers. If the ministers take turn to answer questions, there will be more time for them to prepare answers better. The new way in conducting question and answer session enable us to look at the overall half-term of implementation of the government's Socioeconomic Development Plan.
This questioning session took place over the past 2 days and was very exciting. It shows the confidence not only of National Assembly deputies but also of ministers and industry heads in responding to issues raised by National Assembly deputies. Through the questioning session, it can be seen that this session has more new ministers than previous sessions. They were able to handle difficult questions.
State President Võ Văn Thưởng and his spouse will lead a high-level delegation from Vietnam to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC Economic Leaders Week in San Francisco, the United States, and engage in bilateral activities in the country from November 14 to 17. The trip is made at the invitations of U.S. President Joe Biden, announced the Ministries of Foreign Affairs on November 9th. The president's working visit is made in the context of the 30th anniversary of the first APEC summit taking place in the U.S. in 1993 and also marked the 25th anniversary of Vietnam's entry to the organizations in 1998. On November 9th, State President Võ Văn Thưởng had a meeting with more than 100 talented artisans and handicraft workers nationwide who are attending a festival to preserve and develop Vietnamese craft villages. Currently, there are more than 2,000 craft villages and traditional craft villages in Vietnam with more than 2,000 skilled artisans and workers. The force has contributed positively in restructuring the economy and labor workforce in rural areas in the country. State President Võ Văn Thưởng assessed that with their skills and creativity, various handicraft products of high artistic value have been brought to life. The state president also warned artisans and good workers to persevere in their path in order to develop vocational skills. He also requested the relevant authorities to continue to facilitate better working conditions for artisans to keep their passion. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính on November 9th affirmed that Vietnam treasures its relations with Russia. Receiving the Russian Minister of Emergency Situation, St. Lieutenant General Kurenkov Alexandr Vyacheslav in Hanoi, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính said that Vietnam attaches great importance to the comprehensive strategic partnership with Russia, considering Russia one of its top priority partners. He said that the two sides need to promote the effective implementations of the results of the Intergovernmental Committee meeting, hasten the upgrading of the free trade agreements between Vietnam and the Eurasian Economic Union, EAEU, boost investment with a focus on developing new projects and develop specific plans to soon reopen direct flight between the capitals of the two countries. For his part, the Russian affirmed that his ministry will coordinate with the Vietnamese ministries and agencies to implement areas of cooperation as proposed by the Prime Minister. A total of $1.82 billion has been disbursed for the construction of the North-South Expressway project in the first 10 months of this year. Phase 1 of the Eastern North-South Expressway sections has disbursed $463 million, 69% of this year's plan. Phase 2 has disbursed over $1.36 billion, reaching 72% of the plan. The Nha Trang Cam Lâm section, Cần Thơ Hậu Giang sections, and the Vũng Áng Bùng section have recorded the highest disbursement rates. Administrative procedures are a major concern for foreign businesses operating in or intending to invest in Vietnam. According to the third quarter Business Confidence Index report from the European Chamber of Commerce, Eurocham in Vietnam, nearly 60% of European businesses identify administrative inefficiencies as their primary regulators' obstacles. The overlapping handling of administrative procedures by government agencies has created difficulties for many foreign direct investment enterprises.
According to current regulations, local tax authorities are responsible for handling value-added tax refund procedures for enterprises, including foreign-invested ones. The process takes a maximum of 6 working days for first refund, check later, and 40 days for first check, refund later. However, even after 2.5 months, some businesses have still not received any results from the tax authorities.
The tax authorities informed some of our customers that they were still waiting for responses from related agencies and that they would proceed with the procedures once they received those responses. However, after a considerable amount of time, our customers still haven't received the results.
This situation also occurs in other procedures, which raises concerns among FDI firms. The issue arises from the overlap in handling administrative procedures among different agencies.
As the socio-economy has been developing, more issues are arising at a faster pace, which requires more specific legal documents related to these issues. Laws and regulations are also not specific and clear enough. As a result, ministries, departments, and agencies are still confused by the regulations and have to seek clarification from others.
According to statistics, from 2021 to June of this year, 2,352 business regulations were reduced and simplified across 191 legal documents. However, there is still a need for drastic solutions to minimize overlaps in the handling of administrative procedures among agencies.
It's crucial to review administrative procedures to decide which ones should be reduced and which ones should be kept. Then, they need to be assigned to each agency separately to avoid overlaps. In addition, the amount of time to handle procedures must be regulated specifically and clearly for each procedure and each agency.
When requiring businesses to submit documents or information, the process must comply with the provisions of the law. State agencies should not be allowed to ask for more documents and should also inquire with other agencies about issues that fall within their scope of handling.
Instead of having to go physically to an agency or another, just have online procedures that are faster. That would be better. I think that would also increase the transparency.
Additionally, the government has sought input from FDI enterprises through dialogues and a consultation portal. It has also established the Advisory Council for Administrative Reform of the Prime Minister, which includes representatives from FDI associations in Vietnam. As a result, FDI companies anticipate practical changes in the near future.
We have next on VTV News. Electricity Vietnam raises price by 4.5% to offset costs. And cultivate love for the homeland through local education programs. Welcome back to VTV News. From Thursday, the average retail electricity price increased by 4.5% over the average retail electricity price. This adjustment to increase electricity prices is in accordance with regulations on ensuring that electricity industry can implement its objective and tasks in 2024 plan.
The new retail electricity price for domestic use is calculated in 6 levels. The electricity bill scale has also been announced so that consumers can easily manage their bills based on output. This increase is expected to partly reflect the market price of input materials for electricity production, thereby creating an equitable environment in electricity activities.
With the level of 4.5%, it has partly reduced the difficulties of controlling for the Vietnam Electricity Group. At the same time, it can ensure social security, promote the economy and contribute to providing enough electricity for the country.
A report from the Ministry of Industry and Trade said that in the past 10 months, the cost of purchasing electricity has increased compared to plan by over $534,000. Therefore, the government had to mobilize all of high-priced thermal power sources such as coal, gas, and oil.
The price adjustment to increase by 4.5% for the upcoming period is a great effort of the government and the entire economy. It can solve difficulties for the electricity industry and ensure energy security for the country. We have adjusted the price according to market.
In early May, after the retail price of electricity was adjusted to increase by 3%, the revenue of the electricity industry this year was estimated to increase by about $329,000. Now, with a new increase of 4.5%, it is expected to bring an additional $123,000 for the electricity industry. However, with production and electricity purchasing costs still increasing, the above adjustment can only partially solve EVN's financial difficulties in the short term.
The 2023 International Conference on Digital Health got underway in Hanoi from November 8th as part of the efforts to step up cooperation between Vietnam and Australia in digital health transformation. The hybrid event on November 8th and 9th was put on by the Vietnam Military Civil Medicine Associations, the Health Strategies and Policy Institute under the Vietnamese Ministry of Health, and the Invergent Health Innovation Research Institute at the Swinburne University of Technologies of Australia. In his remark at the conference, Deputy Minister of Health Trần Văn Thuận said digital transformation is a focal task of health sectors which needs to prioritize resources for boosting information technology and digital transformations to improve specialized capacity, management effectiveness, and people's access to medical services. The two-day event provided an opportunity for researchers and experts in the field of digital health and healthcare to come together to share policies, strategies, initiatives, and experiences in applying digital technologies in the health sector. Vietnam strives to achieve a rate of female directors or business owners at least 27% by 2025. This is a goal in the national strategies on gender equality for the period 2021-2030. Recently, many national-level projects have been implemented to achieve this goal. In particular, ethnic women are also given great conditions to participate equally in economic development field. Many people have started successful businesses, bringing stable jobs to many other ethnic women. More in the following story.
The first greenhouse producing wind-hanging persimmons in the north of Vuong Thị Thương, a woman from Nung ethnic people. This model was granted $82,000 in interest-free loans by Van Lang District, and the Department of Industry and Trade of Lạng Sơn Province supported modern machinery and Japanese technology. For the past 2 years, many Tay and Nung ethnic women in the locality have had stable jobs thanks to participating in Thương cooperative.
I have guided people, especially ethnic women, how to grow persimmon and make the best quality products. Since then, people have grown persimmons, bringing them back to the cooperative to make wind-hanging persimmons.
In Gia Lai Province, the Gia Cultural Tourism Village is a startup project of Gia ethnic women. It has helped women in La Monom commune preserve the craft of wicker work and brocade weaving. Therefore, they can have a stable income from the community tourism. According to statistics from the Central Vietnam Women's Union, in the period 2017 to 2021, there were about 50,000 women starting businesses, accessing capital support of nearly $13 million.
We support ethnic women's groups based on surveys and assessments from each region, each locality, and each ethnic group. Therefore, we have effective intervention activities. We also need more activities to motivate ethnic women, so that they can innovate and confidently strive to enrich their families and society.
With supports from the central to local levels, many ethnic women have overcome difficulties to start successful businesses. They even participate in a national startup competitions, thereby seizing opportunities to connect and expand the market to the world.
Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu Province has implemented teaching and learning of a program called Local Education. This subject not only helps the students better understand the place where they were born and raised, but also contributes to fostering love for their homeland and raising awareness and responsibility to preserve and promote historical and cultural values. From there, they will inherit the socioeconomic achievements that previously generations have worked hard to cultivate. More to follow.
Teaching and learning local education subjects at the Theo Secondary School is a new idea and requires the school to proactively design lessons appropriate to student abilities. Lessons are conveyed to students through many forms, including learning in class, learning in open spaces, or learning while experiencing.
Teachers will collect documents, texts, or historical events and songs related to Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu Province to stimulate the students' interest. Teachers will organize integrated activities such as games and competitions between groups to motivate students.
Through this class, I learned more about natural resources, the people and everything of my province. I felt very passionate and motivated. I hope to have many more classes like this.
Implementing teaching and learning this subject, the Department of Education and Training of Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu Province has oriented the curriculum and materials on the basis of helping students have a basic understanding of the local culture, history, geography, economy, society, and environment.
The Department of Education has also directed and guided schools to develop teaching plans, and directed schools to assign teachers and administrators to participate in training classes and activities to know how to implement local education programs effectively and according to regulations.
Realistic content, rich and lively learning forms, local education. Although it is a new subject under the new General Education Program, it is being actively and effectively implemented in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu Province.
Coming up next in our World News, bilateral ties tightens ahead of U.S.-China summit. And Japan eyes 10 principles for using AI in business. Cambodia held the 78th anniversary of Independence Day in Phnom Penh on Thursday under the chairmanship of King Norodom Sihamoni. To commemorate the country's great holiday, the Torch of Victory, symbolizing peace and full independence of Cambodia, was lit on the Independence Monument. Speaking at the rally, King Norodom Sihamoni commemorated the great contributions of the late King Norodom Sihanouk and the heroic martyrs who sacrificed for the country's independence. He also called on all Cambodians to unite, obey the constitutions and laws, and work together to build a prosperous country. The royal government of Cambodia is actively implementing the Pentagon Strategy Phase 1 to turn the country into an upper middle income economy by 2030 and a high income country by 2050. Starting from Thursday, direct regular passenger flights between China and the United States will be increased in the winter-spring seasons of 2023 and 2024. In the context that the two sides are aiming for a bilateral summit this November, this is considered a positive signal in the bilateral relations. Each country's airline will operate 35 flights per week. Currently, passenger numbers on many routes between China and the U.S. have gradually recovered to pre-COVID-19 levels. After a 4-year suspension, China and the U.S. have just resumed consultations on arms control. Negotiations on nuclear arms control between the U.S. and China, according to the China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have achieved great progress. The Japanese government has laid out 10 principles related to artificial intelligence, including fairness and transparencies, in draft guidelines for companies and organizations involved in the new technology. The 10 principles begin with the principle of being focused on human beings, which requires AI-related operators to respect the dignity of individuals and pay careful attention to potential harm. It also calls on them to not develop or provide AI for the purpose of wrongfully manipulating human decisions or emotions. In addition to the 10 common principles, the draft included documentations of the development process in a form that can be verified by a third party as a point of caution for AI developers. Indonesian President Joko Widodo on Wednesday inaugurated a 192-megawatt peak floating solar power plant on a reservoir in West Java province, the largest in Southeast Asia, as part of a drive to increase renewable energy sources and switch away from coal. More in the following story.
The floating solar power plant, a collaboration between Indonesia's national electricity company Perusahaan Listrik Negara and the Abu Dhabi-based renewable energy company Masdar, took 3 years to complete and cost roughly $100 million. The solar power infrastructure, built on Sarata Reservoir 108 kilometers southeast of the Indonesia capital Jakarta, is the third largest floating solar plant in the world. The Indonesian government has said it will attempt to reach net zero emissions by 2050.
Finally, we have a solar power plant with a capacity of 192 megawatt, and this is the largest floating solar power plant in Southeast Asia. I have also spoken with Minister Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi that this will be increased to approximately 500 megawatt, and we hope that more and more new renewable energy resources will be built in our country Indonesia, be it solar power, hydropower, geothermal and wind power. If we continue to build like this, it will be very good.
It is also attempting to reach net zero power sector emissions by 2050 in return for financing for its $20 billion Just Energy Transition Partnership Plan. Under the plan, Jakarta has pledged to cut its power sector carbon emissions to a peak of 250 million metric tons by 2030, down from a previous cap of 290 million.
And now let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour of VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.